Computer. All right, so I hope you're all doing well. I will freely admit to wearing down. I am eroding as you view me, and so I'm glad we're coming to the close of this semester. I am beat. But I hope that we all can kind of, find some grit and soldier on for these last 3 weeks, and we'll have made it. You'll have made it through this very trying time.
Unless you're going to CSU, which means like you're going to have a repeat of this in some.
Well, yeah, and I'm not saying that this is the end of the pandemic or the end of this type of instruction, but you all sort of got thrown into this thing midstream. You didn't, what's coming this fall, right, for remote instruction, et cetera. But, you had to adapt to these vastly changing circumstances, not just in your daily lives, but in the academy. And you deserve a lot of credit for hanging on and soldiering on and all that stuff. So, so David asks, for the Kirgok project, do you want us to answer the questions in essay format or no? Yes. Always for me, give me paragraphs, give me essay, stuff. That's what I'm used to reading in anthropology. That's pretty much all you're going to be submitting. So yes, definitely do
that. Also for the Kirgok project, what was I going to ask? Oh, I was like going over it and I was doing it and everything. And on the map, I couldn't really tell which numbers kind of corresponded to the stela, and I can't really find, or at least I haven't been able to find anything on the kind of sources to link them together. Yeah, I don't know.
What I'll try to do is see if I can't go over that map that I provided and maybe type in larger numbers or something. I know it's hard to read. So hopefully
no, it's not even just that it's a little hard to read. It's just I don't know which stela corresponds to which
so on the prompt, the assignment prompt, there's a correlation table.
Oh shoot, my bad.
Oh no, that's okay. Yeah, I knew that was going to be a problem. So I tried to solve that one at the jump, but that's totally okay. So right at the bottom of the prompt, there should be a little correlation table that says, oh, monument 7 is zoomorph G or whatever the hell they are. So.
Got it. And then just another question on that for the for that book, the Lightning Warrior.
Yeah.
Are there, because it's such a long book, are there any sections that you would be able to disclose?
Yeah, I mean you're not, definitely don't try to read that thing or even large portions of it. I would use the index. I assume it has an index in the back to have it point you to particular sections of the book that are referring to the monument that you're trying to, understand.
Okay.
Yeah. David asks, one giant continuous essay. Yeah, I mean, you can break it down into different subheadings or whatever if you think that'll be good. But for the, because I guess I'm asking you, 3 different questions. So, you could explore, have an intro and then, have a section dedicated to answering the first question and then, with a subheading and then another subheading title going on to the next question. Because it's essentially, I think, asking you to look at the monuments in 3 different ways. So it might be smart to work with them sequentially as opposed to jumping back and forth between them. That'd probably be pretty confusing.
For the sources, did you want them in any specific type of format, like MLA or APA or?
Yeah, I can't remember. Let me look. I've written a guide on how to do that. I can't remember if I posted it for this assignment or not. So let me look. I don't think I have. So I will post that at the end of our Zoom, and it'll be right there with the sources. The guide I've written is about how to find good sources and then how to cite them, you don't need to worry about the part about finding the sources. I already found all the sources for you. So just use the part of the guide that talks about how to cite them and quote them. The other thing I'll say is you're not expected to use every source. You know, there's probably 5 or 6 sources that date to the late 1800s, early 1900s that just talk about the discoveries. And, you know, you're not expected to incorporate all of those, or you may not incorporate any of them. So it's your call about which of the sources that I gave you, you decide to employ.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then we're just one final question for the actual monuments and like the long count, because like obviously you get the like actual, not the actual, but like our dates for it off the descriptions. For the long count, do we have to use like something else, or is it in those texts?
So what I would hope that you could do is look at the monument itself and pull the long count date off it. I think some of the museum signs have the long count date, but remember that you have that website that is a converter. And so you can type any date in there and it'll give you the long count date.
I posted it on the Discord also.
Yeah. So, you know, if an article or museum sign says, you know, the date is May 7th, 763 AD, you can type that into the website and it'll give you the long count date.
Got it. Would also for that would we need to cite that?
No, I would say that unless you were really unless you were writing a paper on calendar correlation, then in all other cases, I would think that the calendar correlation is quote unquote common knowledge, and that, you know, the correlation between our calendar and their long count is just, it's data. You wouldn't need to cite it.
Got it. Okay.
I have some questions about the study guide.
Sure.
So under Nasca, am I saying that right?
Nasca, yeah.
Nasca. It's mentioning something about controversy. Was that just the Greenpeace situation, or?
Yes, yeah. So they held a protest. There was like a big meeting happening, some NGO thing, political thing, and Greenpeace decided to protest, and they put a sign near one of the Nasca lines or designs or whatever, and they ended up disturbing the soil and everything. You're not allowed to like drive up to those things or walk around them. And so it was, you know, this is how I know I'm becoming a curmudgeonly old man. So, you know, when there are Greenpeace people on campus, they don't know this story, like the little new representatives or whatever. So I tell them, and it's really bad because Greenpeace essentially threw their people under the bus. Like the Peruvian authorities were not or insistent that Greenpeace tell them who was there and who did it and all this stuff. And Greenpeace was like, yes, it's this person and this person and that person. So yeah.
Wow.
They got in major trouble.
I feel like oftentimes they end up doing more harm than good.
Yeah, it's a shame. Like you wish these, you know, there's so many areas of the life that could just be improved by the presence of anthropologists. You know, and if they would just, they had an anthropologist on board who could kind of guide them away from doing these sort of facepalm versions of things, because a lot of their protests are really well done and smart and effective. Yeah. So.
They have good intentions. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, you're trying to save whales and you commandeer a ship, okay, but you know, nothing about their protest involved at all the archaeology or the cultural heritage, and so it takes damage. You know, it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? A lot of people, I think, seem to think that our cultural heritage, the things in our past, are kind of there for us. Like they're there for us to collect. They're there for us to fit into our lives how we feel. So if I want to write my name on one, or I want to take a piece of one home with me, or you know, that it's there for me, and it really doesn't work that way.
Truth.
Okay. Other. So let's. Yeah, we're recording. Any questions about the PowerPoints? I know there were 3 kind of short ones. The lecture videos were pretty short for this stuff. I do want to mention also, there's one other culture that we should be dealing with, which is the Wari culture that's coeval with Tiwanaku for a good portion. And I didn't put them in. We don't have time for them, but they really sort of complicate the political scene when Tiwanaku was doing its thing.
In what way?
Well, they were interacting, and you know, sometimes, as I recall, there was conflict, and the ways in which those conflicts played out are, you know, interesting.
How prevalent was the Moche sex pottery?
That's a really good question. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know, because I've never worked on a project, and you know, to see like all the potsherds and you know have some percentage. And again, even the portrait pottery, I don't know how common it is. I think that would be a really good question. It's a really good question. It would be interesting to look at studies to see, you know, are those 2 different types, and even the fine line stuff. Are they just elite stuff? You know, are they only found in certain contexts? You know, how common are they? How abundant are they? Yeah, that would make a good research paper for something. Save that for your upper division Andean class. You can have a research topic all set for you. So David asked in the chat, did Paracas lead directly to Nasca, or was it a random thing where they share a lot of similarities? As I understand it, it's a pretty tight flow, but again, it's not as straightforward a flow that we wouldn't talk about it as the Paracas culture from, you know, early to late periods, right? There's enough of a change there that we say, okay, this is the Paracas, and that necropolis is the big site. And then what Tiwanaku is just very different, at least in terms of social complexity that's exhibited, that's been recovered, that you know, they get deemed their own culture, though things like mummification, etc., you know, connect Paracas and Nasca. But there's no, like, Paracas doesn't do geoglyphs, like that kind of thing. It gets messy, you know, when we separate cultures from one another. You know, did one evolve into the other? Are those categories meaningful to people in the past? Are those, would those have been considered something like ethnic identities back then, or some other kind of political identity, or religious? Those can be hard questions to tease out archaeologically.
So what is a Tumi knife? Is that just the knife used by the decapitator?
Well, so it's that particular curved, blade,
Hmm.
and so the decapitator god holds a Toomey knife, but we also find Toomey knives.
Oh,
Yeah, and so the presumption is that they were used to, make these trophy heads.
okay.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be used, or would it be used to like sacrifice people and then they make the trophy heads? Or
Yeah, I mean, I assume you could, sacrifice someone using a Toomey knife. Um, better hold the person down. It's small. You hold it in a hand. The blade I think is only about that wide. So it's not like a guillotine.
Mhm.
So you don't want them squirming. So maybe they were killed in some other manner, and that was just used to remove the head.
Gotcha. And the cup that had, you said it like tested positive for blood, signifying that they drank the
Cups, yes.
cups. Okay. And where were those found at?
Um, so they're, I think, found within the culture area, and they were always designated as these, cups that have these scenes around them, right? And that was kind of the beginning of the end of it, and the scenes were interpreted as mythological. And then the Sipan burial was found. It's like, wait a minute, this guy's wearing the same hat that this, person we thought was a deity is wearing in this scene. So what if instead of these scenes being mythological, they're historical? And so since the people are having, their heads, their necks cut open, they thought to test that cup for blood, and it tested positive. And then they tested a bunch of the other cups that have similar scenes on them, and they also tested positive. So it seems like in a war event, you would take captives, um, you know, take their blood, I don't know, quickly make pots or something, because, it's hard to drink a cup of blood at a party that is depicted on the side of the cup, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's strange.
so maybe you bring old cups, with different scenes on them to the next battle,
Or the scene just kind of looks similar to
or
it
the
each
scene could
time.
be put on after the drinking episode, right? That's
Hmm.
possible. If they're post-firing paint, I don't know enough about them to know, but that would be another option.
That's cool.
Um, in one of the lectures you mentioned that they would like pierce their neck.
Mm-hmm.
By that, you mean their jugular vein,
So
or
it's
was
not.
it non-lethal?
Yeah, it's not clear. Like, let me call up the picture on the side of the pot. So if you look down here, right, there's a captive. He's seated. His hands are behind his back, and something's being done to his neck. So is that the beginning of a decapitation? Is that an incision in their neck that they would survive? Is that an incision that would end their life, and then you get out the Toomey knife and you know cut it off or whatever? I don't know, and I don't know. I don't think you could know. You'd need some kind of soft tissue preservation, I think, to even have a clue.
When should we be expecting the test for this one?
So the way it'll work is next week is our Inca week. So all the lecture videos will be about the Inca. Then the following week is our review week, and the Zoom will be a review on the fourth study guide that's out. And the exam will be that weekend. So it'll take the same form we'll have a Zoom on the 28th, and then the exam window will open on the 29th at 9 a.m. and close on the 31st at midnight.
Kind of random, but not really. What did the tenon heads represent, or did they represent anything?
I think there are different options. Some of them I think are definitely like feline in nature. So are they these, puma punku, transformative figures? The way they sort of appear to float, in midair against the wall, are they trophy heads? Symbolic trophy heads. I think that would be a fair interpretation as well. So yeah, I don't think there's a steady answer, but I think it's just something we unfortunately don't get to go into, but I think it would be worth your while if you're interested in these Andean cultures, is to look at architecturally the strides they made. When we do the Inca stuff, we'll start to see the kind of jigsaw puzzle walls that they would build with joints so tight that you can't slip a piece of paper between them. Some of the stuff I took out of the lecture here is, I think it was with the Moche. Let me double check. No, that was a lie. Hold on here. It was at Tiwanaku. All that architecture I covered, some of it fits together almost like Lego blocks. So they have like bits that stick out and bits with holes cut in them, and they slot it all together. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
That is cool. And the raised fields that you write about in Tiwanaku, is that like the Chinapa?
Yeah, same exact system.
Okay.
I don't know. I imagine it's different species of fish, you know what I mean, and different crops, although they had maize as well. But they're probably growing potatoes and other things. So let me say this, just as a slight aside, but you can go to Andean restaurants. They will have probably a dozen different potato dishes that you can try. Purple potatoes, some potato dishes are served cold. There's all kinds of stuff. And then Inca Cola is the soda they drink down there, which is pineapple flavored soda.
Inca
Yes.
Cola is the best.
Where can we go to these
I'm just thinking about
restaurants?
these
Inca
potatoes.
Cola is the best.
Inca Cola is the best. Okay.
There's two restaurants in downtown.
Yeah, just on Yelp, look for Andean food or anything like that. You can try Andean.
I mean, you had me at different types of potatoes. That's,
Yeah.
I used to work at a Peruvian restaurant.
Oh yeah, Peruvian.
Yeah.
That's another thing you could search for.
Yeah, so you like chicha. You can do the yuca frita or the anticuchos, which are the beef hearts skewers. But yeah, definitely a lot of potato dishes.
Mhm.
And did you say that Tiwanaku was I know, so I just have random things highlighted in a different color, so that's how I know I need to ask about them.
Okay.
Does City of Pilgrimage stop? Is that correct?
Yeah. So, what I would say is, for a long time in Tiwanaku archaeology, there was kind of this division among archaeologists. Some were interpreting Tiwanaku purely as like a religious center, purely as a pilgrimage destination, and maybe like a little bit of economy capitalizing on that kind of sacred status. But I think as people started to work in Tiwanaku, as the archaeological work has begun to shift from restoring the site core to doing, kind of more standard archaeology, it's really looking like that Tiwanaku was a city with all of the things you would expect, including this sacred center to its layout. But it may be one of those examples, like many of the Maya cities, where the population density is just far below what you would expect an ancient city to have.
And Cerro Mejia.
Is that from the study guide?
Yes. It's a
Yeah, I think I didn't cover that one. You can probably cross that out.
Okay.
We covered Cerro Sachin, and I think that's the only Cerro we've covered. How about that cranial modification by the Nasca? That's impressive, man. They outdid the Maya for sure. Just height. Like they would need to sit further back in their zoom to like get the whole.
The roofs are just a little bit.
Doorways might have been a problem.
Yeah, man. I don't know. What if it was height envy? That would be hilarious. We want to be taller, so.
Or was it that it was? So was it like prestige? The taller you were, the more you were possible for marriage or something like that?
I don't know. I don't know that anybody's done that kind of interpretation of the modification. Like the taller, if taller meant better, or yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I was gonna ask you the opening at the front of the skull to put the rope in.
Yeah.
That's after death, right? That's like collection of a skull trophy for like carrying it around.
Yeah, and they're doing something like, if you notice the kind of example that you saw, the picture that still has the rope in it and everything, it looks like they're trying to preserve the face somehow. But yeah, that hole and the hole in the bottom of the head that's enlarged, that's all very post-mortem.
Okay.
Speaking of preserving, how did they preserve the head? Did I miss that part?
I didn't put that in, and to be honest, I'm not sure. I know that it it really just could be that they're living at enough altitude where decay is just slowed because the oxygen levels are lower. There's not as much bacteria. I don't know. I don't know if they're taking steps, or if even let's look at the picture. Just I don't mean to grow you guys out, but let's
Was there a chance that they shared with the what was the other group that's right on the other side of the mountains? I don't know if you'll cover them, but the Hivara, they did the shrunken heads, and they would do a treatment to preserve the skin and stuff like that.
Yeah, it might be something similar, because if you look at the faces, they look like mummies, just the way the lips are formed and stuff. So that to me, looks like a real human semi-decayed face. And that hair is real for sure. Good times.
Not for the person who said it was.
True.
They're dead. I wrote in the name of that group in case anybody was interested in shrunken heads.
Shrunken head stuff, yeah. What was I going to tell you? So I just learned, apparently, this was back, maybe I mentioned it, back when Tumblr was really popular. Apparently there was an artist on Tumblr who was selling like human bones and it came out that she was actually like grave robbing, like going into cemeteries to acquire these bones.
Certain type of person right there.
Like, wow. So anyway, if we want to do an Etsy with trophy heads, I think we could
make jewelry, little earrings, and
yeah, could do.
Or a tongue pierce.
But I mean, I want the full-on head on a rope. You know, it's like those cell phone charms. Remember those? The little dangly things that would
I
hang
do
on?
remember those.
Yeah. It's just like one of those, but bigger.
Man, those were
You
good times.
have it dangle from the back of your pickup truck instead of a bull scrotum. Yeah.
Have it. Remember those wallets that had the chain?
Yeah. We're halfway there, really.
Put it on your hip and then just have the rope hang like from one of your belt loops.
Actually, you know, if we just made like little fake ones, I bet they would sell.
No, they're coming back. It's a 30-year cycle with fashion. So if it was popular during the 90s, it'll be coming back during the 20s.
Yeah. Boy, I really don't need the fashion from the 90s to come back.
No, not at all.
Then if we wanted 2000s clothes, then we had to be till the 2030s for them.
I don't even know what 2000s clothes would be.
Little crop tops, big belts.
Big belts, crop tops.
Baggy jeans.
Crocs.
Oh, God.
Don't, they've become a very, very much a standard now that I don't have to go out anywhere.
Well, all
Nobody
right.
judges me in my house. I wear Crocs all the time. Gotta get the mail. I'm not putting on socks and shoes. I think taking out the trash. I'm not putting on socks and shoes. Yeah.
So these are not Crocs. These are my bought in
Slides.
rural Guatemala sandals. And something about if you so our feet are giant compared to those than their standard Guatemala. Your standard adult male Guatemalan probably has a size 7 shoe, men's 7. So finding it like the equivalent to a 10.5, which is what I wear, it's like looking for clown shoes or something.
Dude, I wear 12.5.
Yeah, they wouldn't even have it, man. They wouldn't.
They're like, here, just flatten out this 2-liter bottle and.
I mean, like tire tread, like you'd be looking to the village elders to like square you up.
I'm down. I'll wear some tire tread sandals.
Yeah, the Birkenstocks, David say. That's funny. Oh, before I forget, before anybody takes off, so you do have an extra credit opportunity. I'm going to Friday evening live stream Kaltiki the Immortal Monster. And the way you earn the extra credit is by emailing me a write-up about what the film got right about the ancient Maya and what the film got wrong. So sort of what I did with Apocalypto, you're going to do with Kaltiki. And just do your best. The film does not stay centered on the Maya for its entirety. Anyway, so the live stream of the film is Friday at 7, but the film is also available for free if you have Amazon Prime. And so you're welcome to watch it on your own and still do the assignment. And it's probably rentable through Amazon as well. But I'll put the title here. Kaltiki the Immortal Monster. It's an Italian horror film, dates to 1959. It is, let me see if I can't find a trailer that we can watch. So just again, the assignment would be to write up what the film got right and what it got wrong. It actually does get some things correct, but keep an eye to the details. All right, here is the Here is the original trailer.
Ages ago, in a long-lost part of the world, the Mayans worshipped a terrifying goddess. To her, men offered their strength and their devotion. Women offered the beauty of their bodies. Al-Tiki, the immortal monster. Today, courageous adventurers, dedicated scientists of both sexes begin the exploration of recently discovered caverns buried in the very womb of the earth. From space beyond space comes force beyond measurement, energizing this monstrous mass of man-eating protoplasm that powers every living thing it touches. When the mate appears in the sky, the power of Kaltiki will destroy the world. You can believe what you like. Kaltiki's been reborn. All civilians are to remain in their homes until further order. Every precaution has been taken to combat the danger of city places, and all citizens are urged to remain calm. That is all for now. Can anything on this earth stop Kaltiki, the immortal monster?
So there you have it. That's Kaltiki.
Did they mention aliens?
Well, oh shoot, why is it still playing? Oh, sorry.
So it went from possible Mayan origin items with very Africanized viewing to The Thing in less than
right. So it really is the kind of small Italian film industry try to capitalize on a bunch of stuff. So movies like The Thing and The Blob, the original Thing, it's trying to have a little bit of that in there. There also were a bunch of films kind of centered on the science fiction of the atomic age. So that's in there. It even talks about carbon dating, which was only about 10 years old at the time the film was made. And then I don't know why they decided to mine Maya culture. Maybe the Egyptian stuff was kind of played out. Yeah, and I was listening to the commentary on the film, and the word Kaltiki obviously is not the name of any Maya anything, and the commentator sort of guessed that Thor Heyerdahl's expeditions, one of his boats was called Kon-Tiki, but that's in the South Pacific, so who knows how they arrive at these different things. But the film's only about, I think, 1 hour and 7 minutes. It's a pretty quick ride, but I hope we have fun with it. But for this one, I'm not going to stop it and pause it and correct it or congratulate it. That'll be your job to do. So, take some notes while you watch it. Any questions about that opportunity? Look for an announcement on Canvas about how to watch the live stream. I don't know that I'm going to do it through Discord this time. I may do it through Cosme. We'll see what happens. How many of you think you would attend the live stream? This is not a promise, but just
said it's on Friday.
Friday at 7. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I probably will because I have nothing better to do.
Okay. All right. All right. Anything else about the PowerPoints or the project or anything?
I just have to show you. So I'm working on your Maya glyphs, right?
Uh-huh.
So I was like, oh, it would be fun for me to draw them all out, right? So I've drawn all 4 out of 5, and then I get to the 5th exercise, and it's this. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, the last one of the last exercises is like, here's a complete Maya text, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've just been doing little dudes and
Well, that's how you get the hang of it. You just got to practice them and practice them and practice them. It's really funny.
practicing. But yeah, it's cool.
That's a very nice way of putting it.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll put the stop on the recording.